My name is Wayne Kramer. I'm the president of the board here at the LBJ Museum, and it's my pleasure to welcome you tonight to our fall lecture. It doesn't really feel like fall, but it's the fall lecture. I first of all would just like to recognize the other members of the board that are in here tonight. Zark Markowitz, who's me running the camera today. Linda Rodriguez up here in the front. Ann Burnett, who you'll hear from in a minute. Kate Clayton. Melissa Millikamp in the back. And Ellie Dietz. So they're all hard-working board members for the museum. Do excellent work. Now that we're getting to playoffs for baseball, I'm always reminded that Casey Stengel once said that success is the ability to take credit for all the home runs someone else is hitting. So I'm taking all the home runs for them. I'd like to introduce Dr. Ann Burnett, a board member, and also our secretary, who will introduce our speaker tonight.
We are very excited to have Dennis Fagan joining us tonight. Dennis moved to Austin after studying writing at the University of Iowa, and since opening his studio in Austin, Dennis has won national and international awards in the fields of editorial, fine art, and commercial photography, including Best of Show at the National Addies. Dennis is also a film director who directs video production in Austin and around the state of Texas. Dennis's work is included in many private collections as well as the permanent collections within the Smithsonian, the National Portrait Gallery, that is, the Houston Museum of Fine Arts, the Harry Ransom Center, and our own Whitliff collection here at Texas University. So it's the Polaroid collection. For about 20 years, Dennis Fagan was the principal photographer for Lady Bird Johnson's pursuits on behalf of a more natural ecosystem, and that's what he's going to be talking to us about tonight. And before I turn this over, I just also want to recognize Steve Johnson and Jennifer Reese, who were our contacts who enabled us to invite Mr. Fagan to join us tonight.
You should wait and see if they like it.
Really welcome.
Okay, thanks. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for that nice introduction and all the nice faces I see. What we're going to do is just, without any order, Mike's going to help me, and we're just going to show a lot of my pictures. And when we get to Q&A, if there's a certain picture, we can pull it back up if you want to ask about, But I'm working on a book, which the title right now is Bird Songs, and it's 30 or 35 of my photos. It's me in a written memoir, what it was like, because I came from Iowa, I came from the Midwest, and I had never been to Texas. I didn't know. I don't know how much this already, but just to give you a hint for those of you who've been in Texas a long time, they were talking about the first trip out to the LBJ Ranch. They were talking about these goddamn cedar choppers. And I thought it was like a machine. So I said, well, can't they just sharpen them? Or I didn't know. I really didn't know. I was 22 years old, dripping wet. And how I got to be the guy is, I hope, in what I'm going to read you. So I'm going to read you some parts of what will hopefully be my book, which hopefully will come out next August or so. And I have no reason to believe that, but I'm just going to keep saying that. And Mike's here is going to just be showing pictures, and then we'll do Q&A, and then we'll play bingo. And then I want to talk to you about Amway products. Okay, how's that? All right. So I think I lost my, I lost this, I need this password.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, there you go.
It's just my finger, is what it is.
You just got to cut off your finger and... Is it really? Like it recognizes your fingerprint? Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So this is not something I go town to town and do all the time or anything, so if you'll just be patient with the awkwardness of everything. But it looks like the technology and everything we got is fine. I'll just break out of this really quick. This was at the very beginning of what became the hike and bike trail. And I was there, I was a two-man film crew. As you can see, this trail nowadays comes through here and then goes this way up to the Seahome intake plant. and there's trees and everything, and these are all, that's all there was down there in Austin, was just people fishing, and except for Aquafest, once a year, and all these people, and then everybody was gone, and you just see guys with poles bringing in catfish or whatever. And I'm just totally going to break my script here and tell you this. So Miss Johnson had a great experience with the Potomac in Washington. And my sister, who lives in Alexandria, Virginia, said, she's my older sister, so she's smarter than me. She says, you told me Lady Bird put the cherry trees in, and I found out that's not true. I said, what? She goes, no. And it's true, cherry trees don't last that long. So in 1965, are there any Lady Bird scholars here? Okay, I think this is true. The Prime Minister of Japan was at a state dinner in the White House, and he got to sit next to Miss Johnson, and she said, I have a favor to ask, with her beautiful voice. And we have a virus in our cherry trees that Japan gave us in 1923. And I wondered if you could just send us bare root, just 4 or 5, and our scientists will figure this out. And a month later, 700 trees came, and they did that all, and then they got a matching grant, and they got a new sidewalks, and it became a destination to walk along the Potomac and stuff. So she had that great win, and came home, and that's part of what my story's about. Is it was 38 years after the president died till she died, and it's kind of a unique experience to be a first lady and not have your husband. Jimmy Carter had Rosalind. They did amazing things, and you just kind of go through it. But nobody other than Eleanor Roosevelt ever really had a whole other kind of career after the White House. So she started with that, and she started with the Texas Highway Department, and this was one of her favorite poses. And if you're a photographer, as we've got a great photographer here in the back, you always like, okay, got that. What else you got? And she'd just go, do it again. I saw David 10 minutes ago. She had this thing because she went to charm school in East Texas, on Saturday mornings. And she'd do this thing where she'd turn one foot out, and she'd straighten herself. And she'd turn one hand out like that. And she'd wait. My camera was not like these cameras here. It was really loud Hasselblad. It just goes, kaboom, and then, and she would wait till she heard it. And I couldn't outlast her. And so it was hard to get candid. She really kind of art directed the shoot, just fine. And another thing you'll see this dress, and then I've got a whole bunch of it with a red suit she'd wear, and people have said over the years, oh, that was all one day. And I said, no, that was one of her 3 favorite dresses, And because a couple of things, well, you can't see it on this, but she wore her wedding band for years after the president died. If you see that, I know what years that was, or there's different changes, and then different things about her hair and stuff I know. I go, oh, well, that must be about 83, or that's 85. So, but we did this, and we were trying to raise money for the Wildflower Center, which nobody was really sure there was even going to be a Wildflower Center. We started as a couple of trailers out near Weberville Road, East Austin, and we really didn't know that it was a National Wildflower Research Center. That's what they all were saying. And so I would do these, and then we would send them to publicists in New York, and they hopefully get them in Red Book or Southern Living or all those, and so you'll see a lot of them. Well, there'll be a lot of sky above. I may have cropped this, I can't remember. I know these pictures better than I know my children, really, but yeah. So you can imagine, Southern Living, you know, and then they just cut it like this. And that made the odds of it getting picked up and being a cover story about how she's doing the Wildflower Center. Somebody writes a check, bing, you know. So that's near Lake LBJ. That damn hat had more cracks in it, and she just loved that hat. She had this, this is a ring the president gave her. It's a gold ring with a white pearl. And the day after her death, they all went and tried to steal that picture that's out there. I don't know if you see it on an easel. And the National Wildflower Center had it on their website. They were all just stealing it and putting it on the front page. You're not supposed to do that, but you know, I didn't care. But still, they had it reversed. You know, instead of this, it was this. And there was a whole thing about it the following year at the National Press Conference about don't be taking photos if you don't have permission. Because they all went there and they went, well, because they put that, see, it's on her right hand. So they went, oh, well, that's her wedding ring, it should be on her left hand, so we'll just flip the slide. So it was like 57 newspapers the next morning, and more than half of them, they flipped her the other way and went, well, I know what I'm doing. And I went, no, you don't. It was kind of funny. I was glad. I was, of course, sad to lose her. And this was, we're going to show you in a little while, the U.S. Post Office took this and did a stamp and I don't even know thing, but maybe y'all will recognize it when we show it to you. You want to do it? It's in that folder called Print. I am totally off my script here. And this thing went off on me again. Do I just put my finger on it? Yeah, what do you call that? Canceled something or other? This is from her national, the White House portrait of her. And they said, well, we need a photo, and they looked at 100 of them. It's like, yeah. I don't know what you call that. Okay. Let's do this before the computer goes off again. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you, well, it might be, you know, the first 10 pages or something of my book. And it just talks about how I met Lady Bird. And maybe we'll even have cedar choppers. I was a witness to early work of Lady Bird Johnson in her post-White House efforts to establish new ecological research and practices in Texas and beyond. Texans love to brag that they had more miles of beautiful highway than any other state in the nation. Ms. Johnson's untiring efforts focused on a highway beautification program also like no other. But we did not know that just 2 years after burying her husband. We saw her roll up her sleeves for that highway program, and not aware that she already had a plan for a National Wildflower Research Center. So at the beginning, in 1975, I arrived as a photographer from my college newspaper in Iowa, with occasional assignments for the United Press Wire Service and some assignments in my newest town of residence, Austin, as they had unveiled the newest and best swim center in the country where many of the best swimmers and divers could be photographed. I had been a sports photographer for eventual publication in Sports Illustrated and stuff like that. My initial impression of Miss Johnson remains distinct in my memory. I had a part-time job in the basement of the LBJ library, and my job was to keep a few film and video projectors as well as audio programs running dawn to dusk 7 days a week to the many who visited the museum upstairs on the first and second floor. Above that, on the 3rd through 7th, that's where hundreds of thousands of pages of documents were housed of American history, including the papers of the Johnson administration, November 63 to January 69. How many have been to the LBJ library? Like most of you. Yeah, good. So you know, they don't only have Lyndon's documents, but they got all of Martin Luther King. Anything that happened during the Johnson presidency is kept there. And the presidential library system was set up when we were all scared about H-bombs and stuff in the 50s, and they wanted to spread out our documents so one bomb in Washington couldn't take out our whole history. Okay. Just 10 feet outside our door in the basement was an elevator which brought the First Lady and her Secret Service detail, who you knew, to our floor in the basement and down a hallway to her awaiting car. My first glimpse came as I emerged from our office into that hallway as the Secret Service exited the elevator and stared hard at me. They had never seen me before. Ms. Johnson came next, holding a large shopping bag that said Foley's on the side. She noticed me when she was walking, because she'd always be a little bent over like this, and I have a picture that will show. And she was just like, here I go, you know. And they were like, oh, exactly. Nice job. That's exactly this. I told her with this. I'll bring script again. So the first 3 or 4 years, she didn't know me from Hill Beans, and I was from the Midwest. I didn't know, I didn't know what a cedar chopper was, or chicken fried steak. I said, "What's that?" Like they thought, "Who's he?" So in the later years, that was the first 3 or 4 years. But in the later years, we really got to be friends, and we spent a lot of time alone now because this is on the ranch. This time there is a Secret Service man. But one thing she loved to do is she'd be in the house and we'd be in the kitchen just eating brownies. And then she'd say, let's go, like that. And we would run out the back door of the kitchen. She'd jump in this car, because they kept the keys in it all the time. She'd just haul ass up the runway. And the guys in the shed were like, looking out the window. Damn it, And they'd catch up to us later, but she loved to do that, But anyway, we got to spend a lot of time together, and she liked me, and after a while. So I was telling her, I said, well, yeah, in Illinois, we don't have any trees. She said, is that right? And I said, yeah, the glaciers came and just scraped them all off, and then that's how we got Lake Michigan. And she said, and you really believe that? So, like, how dumb are you? So that's exactly that. When I saw her for the first time, that's what she was like that. And she was just like, go into the car, don't keep going. I was wearing a white button-down shirt with a striped pattern tie. She bowed her chin slightly and said, good morning to you. 7 seconds later, the whole entourage disappeared down the hallway. I went back into our office and told Donna, our secretarial typist, I just saw Lady Bird. Donna replied, did the Secret Service pull out their guns? And I went stone quiet. Then she winked at me and smiled. The fact was, it was a near everyday occurrence to see her in that hallway for everyone, but it was only my 3rd day on the job. I had not even finished unpacking my boxes in the back bedroom of a nearby house in Hyde Park. The beginnings of my journey and what would become a wonderful friendship with the former First Lady started on a Friday night poker game in Austin. Several of the guys at the table were former White House staff, including Frank, who had been on the team of photographers for the Johnson administration. Evidently, when Frank moved to Austin to assume the head of the photo archive at the brand new LBJ library, he got tagged with continuing certain assignments that he routinely worked on when President and First Lady were still in the White House. One of those tasks was accompanying Miss Johnson out onto the 4,000 acres of the LBJ ranch. It's not 4,000 acres anymore, near Stonewall. Besides photographing important guests of the day and with the supervision of the State Department, there were times when Miss Johnson would take a favorite guest out to see the natural qualities of the ranch away from cattle or the ranch's runway. On these outings, there was typically 2 Secret Service agents and a White House photographer. Well, after the president's death in '73, the number of international and diplomatic guests dropped significantly. More likely, guests were family members or from Miss Johnson's close friends, like Texans Carolyn Curtis, Tom Johnson, or former press secretary Liz Carpenter. She loved Liz Carpenter. Liz could make her laugh like that. In the years that passed, particularly '74 and '75, Miss Johnson returned to her work at the LBJ Library and promoting symposiums with Director Harry Middleton and environmental development with local growth. Can you all see? Because I could walk this over here. Okay, as I knew, and I'll be done, I got a few more paragraphs I'll be done with. As I knew very little about the First Lady in those days, I was always fascinated by the things I learned at these events. My first trip to the ranch was in a government sedan with just a film crew. I sat in the back, listened to Bill and James as they told stories about past events and trips to the ranch. which was about an hour's ride west of Austin. I was staring out the back window as I had only arrived in Texas a few weeks earlier. Everything I saw seemed new and exotic and different from my expectations when I first considered the move from the farmhouse I lived in back in Iowa. I suppose I expected cactus, but not prickly pear. More like the saguaros I had seen in Roadrunner cartoons. Real life roadrunners were a delightful surprise to me, and like armadillos were frequently seen on Highway 290 out to the ranch. The co-workers in the front seat talked on and off about the goddamn cedar chopper service, and I hadn't a clue what that was. Finally I said, "Isn't that something you can sharpen?" Which they never let me hear the end of that. So how am I doing on time? Yeah, I probably should. So I'm writing a book, and that would be all these photos, and then what it was like for me, my memories and stuff, and some of them funny, and some of them just the story, and then I'm interviewing 25 people like Tom Johnson, who later became head of CNN, and Laura Bush, Bill Moyers, and some other names that you probably know. And I said, what is it about Lady Bird that was so amazing for you? And they talk around it, and then I edit it. I'm now become an editor, and then there's these pages, and then hopefully I'll have a picture of them with Miss Johnson back in the days, 70s or 80s, and that's the book, okay? And that's why I call it Bird Songs, because there's a lot of different stories about Miss Johnson. Okay. I think I'm ready for questions and answers. Yes?
Did she like to take pictures too?
Yes. Oh, I've got a nice thing. You get the first one here. There's a picture of her with a camera.
Yes.
Yeah, there was one up there.
Oh, good. Oh, and it's in the slideshow too? So, yeah, because see what happens if you ask a good question? You take that up with it. And I'll have them for you after we quit. And I can't imagine why you want it, but I'll sign it for you if you want. How about another good question? Yes? Wait a minute. Vanessa, right?
So there was a picture of you and her. Who took that?
Oh, that was,
There's another one too, y'all together next to each other.
yeah, that was all the same day. I asked if I could bring an assistant, and the truth was this guy, Neil Bernstein, this Jewish guy from Chicago, was visiting, and he was a wildflower too, like me, but he just was stone quiet the whole time. But he said, "What should I do?" I go, "Just wait in the car," and he said, I always had a backup camera, and he said, "Well, can I take pictures of you?" And thank God I said yes, because otherwise I wouldn't. I've got some other pictures of me. I don't know if I'll put them in this any of these folders. I might not have, but they'll be in the book. Yeah, there you go. That's at the. That's by Frank Wolf. That's the guy who at the poker game. I didn't finish it. That's a good story. So we're playing poker, and he's winning. So all the chips are on his side of the table. There's 5 of us, and it's like 5 to 9. He stands up, and goes, "Oh, I gotta go." I said, "You're not going anywhere. You gotta give us a chance to win back our money." So I gotta get up, goddamn 5 o'clock with Lady Bird, go to the LBJ Ranch, and I said, "You get to go to the LBJ Ranch?" And he says, "Why, do you think that would be fun?" That was like Gomer Pyle. I was like, "Holy!" And then the next day, he said, "We got this young kid. He's a good photographer. He wants to do this. What do you say?" I'm recently married, Miss Johnson. I need to spend more time with my wife." And she said, "Oh, well, let's give him a try," and that's how it all started. The truth was, he wanted to play golf. Okay, yes?
I wonder if most of these pictures of her in the closet are those that LBJ.
This is, if you know Kingsland, this is out by Lake LBJ almost, north, and she knew so many people with ranches and stuff. So she would call them on Thursday or something and say, how are we doing, or has the Indian blanket come up yet, or and they would say, because a lot of times we'd have somebody else be heard, the Secret Service, and then like the Rockefellers or something crazy, I'm like, Rockefeller, but it was Lawrence Rockefeller, like, oh, isn't he a big deal too, or I didn't know. We had Kissinger once, if we have time I'll tell this. But anyway, they wanted, and that, what do you think they wanted more than anything else? They wanted an 8x10, like that one that was of me, and then she'd write a note on the bottom, say, thank you so much for your support. We look forward to your check arriving. She was good. Yeah. Oh, that's right. You got to ask a question. Yeah. Anyone up here? Yeah. They're watching me. If I cheat you out of this, I'm in trouble. You're welcome. Okay. How about another good question? Here we go.
There's a guy in Riverland, I can't think of his first name, his last name is Stark, and he was LBJ's photographer for a while. So I'm just wondering, I don't know if you know, but how many of y'all were there? I mean, you
Well,
were
in
there
the
for-
White House, there was a senior photographer, like what's his name for Barack Obama? Pete Souza. He was number one. Were there other photographers? Yeah, but President Obama, if he had a choice, he wanted to see Pete. Pete was from the Chicago Sun-Times. I got to meet him. He's a great guy. So the big guy in the Johnson administration was a Japanese photographer from San Francisco named Okawa, I think. Now the Thorpe, I know of a track star named Thorpe, but oh no, I don't know. That doesn't mean he wasn't, but he was probably on the team. He wasn't really. Frank was also on the team. He wasn't as big shot guy as this Japanese guy was.
But y'all were to do a stint and then maybe go on to.
Well, I didn't know. Good question, because I didn't get to Texas till '75. President died in '73. So I wasn't part of the White House team. Frank, who got a great government job to finish out until his retirement. He was only 35 years old or something. But he liked sitting at his desk, and he didn't like going out in the wildflowers. So, and he had to go out on Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, sometimes out to the ranch. So he was really happy to give it to me. Here, and I'm like, go on. Yeah.
Was there ever a time, flavors of the law, was there ever a time y'all met rattlesnakes out there? There's rattlesnakes out there with blue bonnet.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever come across that in the woods?
Yeah, and I didn't know what a coral snake was.
A rattlesnake.
I know. No, I'd rather have a rattlesnake than a coral snake, right? And somebody know about that? Because I didn't know it. I might get it. There's two of them. They look alike. Coral snake and... Thank you. Yes, we saw rattlers. But rattlers, of course, watch, I'll die from a rattlesnake, but that's not what he said in San Marcos. But they're not aggressive or anything. They'll warn you. That's all warning you. They're not out hunting for. So yeah, we saw them in the blue bonnets. Did you say at the Wildflower Center?
No, since she loved the wildflowers, and we are taking, photographs out
Yeah.
there amongst the wildflowers.
Well, she'd always send me. Now and then.
Secret Service is probably okay with that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't need another postcard, but I just want to know, all of these pictures, where are they? Are they just places that you thought were beautiful? Are they on the ranch? Are they all over Texas? Where are these photographs?
Where did I take these photos?
Yes.
They're all in Central Texas, as far south as Gonzales, as far north as near Waco. And she was amazing because she kept getting guests that wanted to come to the ranch, and she was, trying to raise money for this Wildflower Center. And so it'd be May, like there ain't no bluebonnets in May, but we would go out first to Mason, and then the Pontotoc, in Fredonia. Anybody know the hill country? I mean, way out almost to Brady, which was a bit of a drive from the LBJ Ranch. And sure enough, there they'd be. In fact, that one in the landscapes, that beautiful one of the Indian blanket, it's in the landscape folder. I hope this is worth the delay. Yeah, that one. That's just outside of Mason. And you know, and as the further out you go, where it's the red dirt country, I know some of you know about this. You don't see those yellow tips as much as we see around here. It's because the iron content in that red dirt is so much higher. Because I always liked those that were like crazy dark red, you know.
So where did you go in Gonzales and you accounted? Where was that ranch in Gonzales? Because I'm from Louisville, County. So it's only.
Here's what I can tell. We also would go out beyond Smithville too. There was a guy named John Barr. You never knew him, did you? Houston Monthly?
Houston Munson.
Oh.
Had a big ranch in Gonzales.
That sounds familiar. But we would go. You remember when Willie's 4th of July
That was
picnic?
it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, well, that was the ranch.
Yeah. Houston Munson.
Did we answer your question? Yeah. All right, you get a postcard.
I answered part of
All
that.
right, we're gonna split it down. Okay, where's Gail? How am I doing, Gail? I brought a really good friend. Yeah.
More stories about the hike and bike trail, that kind of thing, because I recognize that right away. I grew up pretty close to there, and I immediately shouted out hike and bike trail. Like, Austin used to be so different before labor efforts, and people like to complain about Austin, but the Austin we have that's beautiful really is worse than
Okay, well, this is great because I'll venture into controversial stuff here. I gotta tell you a joke first. How many Austinites does it take to change a light bulb? 5. 1 to hold the bulb, and 4 to tell you how much better it was in the old days. Okay. On the topic of the LBJ Ranch, which there's one person here I've already talked to a little bit. I got something controversial to say, and I got the Butlers in Austin had a car dealership, and then he became mayor for a while. Great guy, ended up in a wheelchair, nice guy. But his wife was a force, Ann Butler. And you didn't hear this here today, but Miss Johnson, I was there at the very beginning of cutting ribbons, planting trees, shovels spray painted gold. It was the very beginning. Miss Butler wasn't anywhere around. And the Trail Foundation, who now is banging the drum and raising money and doing good things, they're all like, oh, yeah, Butler. Thank God. And I'm like, no. That was Lady Bird Johnson that did that. And it was off of that cherry tree success she had. And she also, the next controversial thing is that Kirk Watson was mayor and then state senator, now mayor again. He was at a dinner and he said, I've got to name that lake Lady Bird Lake. And she said, I'll spin in my grave if you do it. Don't you ever do that. I do not want that trail or that lake named after me.
Why? Why do you think she felt that way?
Well, that was part of somebody else's book would be really good about this, but she had a way of making people do things and making it seem like it was them, which she kind of did on Butler. You know, she made Ann Butler think it was her, but it wasn't. I mean, I could go on and on about it. There's people that debate it, but I mean, to the top conversation in a London hotel room, I will fight for this. You know, like with my sister about the cherry trees. You know? So, did I answer that?
I have 2 little questions. How long did you work for Lakebird, and do you still keep in touch with the girls, with the family?
Yeah. I worked for the LBJ Library. I worked at the Herbert Hoover Library, which you should go. It is itty bitty. It was franchise. But I was in the photo archive. I handled all of Mrs. Hoover's photo I'll give you a postcard. You can name the wife of Herbert Hoover.
Listen very well.
Lou Henry is her name. I did all, anyway, that's how I got a job at LBJ. And I was there 5 years, 75 to 80. I started up with Miss Johnson in 76. It went all the way on into the 90s. She had 2 little strokes and she kind of came through it okay, but then the 3rd stroke was, and I'm going to talk about my final pictures here for you too. Am I okay on time? Where am I? I didn't finish answering. Oh yeah. Well, Linda Bird doesn't know me from the Hill of Beans because she's been in Virginia for so long. Her daughter, Catherine Bob, does know me and likes me. Thank God. Lucy has been introduced to me at least 14 times. When she was married to Pat Nugent, she was introduced to me. I've known her a long time, and her husband, wonderful second husband, Ian, had trouble with his heart this past summer. So I haven't been able to interview her for the book yet, but she said she would. Linda Bird had their house caught on fire, and she got caught. Just heard my 9th grade instructions on what to do if there's a fire. Get down on your knees and feel for the doorknob, right? She tried to walk out of the house and ended up getting serious smoke inhalation. And for months, her lungs were compromised and she had a real hard time. And she also had some bad stuff with back stuff. I think she's 80 or 81. No. And most of my stuff was March through May, every spring. And usually people that were from out of state, we were trying to raise money. Or we were trying to get magazine covers or things like that. So, good answer?
Yes.
Did you get a postcard? Yeah. Yeah.
I know that Eddie Burke had a set home, I think, in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, where she spent summers. Did you ever go up there?
I thought she should have invited me. But that was kind of her recess. She really put her hair down in it. But this, the famous picture that's out in the hallway there, that's Lake LBJ, and that was a house that she really loved. It was a little white house on about, I don't know, 18 acres or something. And she loved it, and they'd go, and they had a couple of I'll age myself, motorboats. Nobody calls them motorboats anymore, right? And that's the LBJ Ranch. I love that. That's one of my favorite pictures. Oh, here's this good story. So one day, years later, 20 years, we really got to be pretty good friends. And she invited my wife out for dinner and all sorts of things. And we finished for the day, like out there, out in front of the ranch. She goes, "Would you like a lemonade?" I said, "Well, yes, ma'am, thank you." And she said, "Good, because I have a question for you." And I said, "Oh, good, what is it?" "Well, I don't think you're going to like it." I said, "Oh, I can't imagine that." What she said, she was nervous about it. She said, "Let's get your lemonade first." So they brought lemonade. We sat down. There's these great chairs and this great oak tree. So many people sat. Even Goldwater. A lot of famous people sat under that tree. And said, "Well, when I was a student at the University of Texas, our photojournalism instructor said that the photographer should always have the sun at his or her back." I said, "Yeah, I know about it." "You know about that?" "Yes, sir. It's on the side of every box of Kodak film." She goes, "It is." "I noticed you never have the sun at your back." I said, "Yes, ma'am. I do it on purpose." You're in heaven watching me. That's why I love backlit photos. Okay. Another question. Yes.
Did you do your own development?
There is a black and white in here somewhere, I think. Did you see it goodbye? That I did, yeah. That's Tri-X in the Hasselblad. See how it's square? I love that picture. this is, I just can tell because we were friends by then. The first few years, she didn't know what to make of me. But no color, I didn't. I just took them to lab. And then I picked the good ones. You know, those ones with rock foam and all that. I had to have an 8x10 in 3 days. So I'd run them, then order the 8x10s, and then, you know, I'd deliver them to her secretaries. Everyone, remembering our glorious time. And that's all they wanted, you know, I mean, it was, everybody knew what they wanted. Yes, ma'am.
I'm from Illinois, so I can relate to your dilemma.
You know, there's no trees in Illinois.
Well, I worked for a magazine in North Texas at about the time the Wildflower Center opened, and I came down and covered it. She came through the little door in the little children's area under Secret Service. I just wondered if you were covering that event, were you assigned to that?
I was there that day, but there were a lot of events out there that I didn't go to. I was more out with the snakes, you know, because well, of course, there'd be somebody from the Statesman, and you know, there'd be a little bit of press, and they had after a while at the new Wildflower Center, we call it the new Wildflower Center, they had a staff photographer. So his name was Joe somehow, I think of his name. I sense a question from this gentleman here. He's been so quiet, but remember we were talking when you came in.
I was making fun of you.
Payback is hell. Do you have a question? Okay. Yeah.
They've been great questions.
Yeah.
So did you ever get to spend the night in the ranch house?
Yes. Which leads me to the second controversial story. But very rarely. And, you know, she wanted me there at 6:30, which gives me another story. The phone would ring about 5, or 4:45 or 5 a.m. And my wife didn't like that, you know, and but I would just stick my head in my pillow and I said, "Will you get that?" It was back when it was a landline and right there. No, you know who it is. You know. Hello. Hello, this is Ladybird Johnson. You know, like I was going to say, and who else would it be? You know? I wondered if you're busy this morning. You know. No, ma'am, I'll be out there. Give me that. I can jump in the shower. I'll be there right away. I forgot it. Oh, did I spend the night there? Oh, no, let's see. The controversial thing. Oh, so the bedroom that I spent the night in is, you can't find it anymore. I mean, you go down the halls, but they've converted, in the wisdom of the National Park Service, they're making the ranch house look like 1964. And they renamed it. None of the brochures or anything on the website, they don't call it the LBJ Ranch. They call it the Texas White House. I'm a big fan of hers, so okay, that's all my controversial stuff. Isn't she great? Yeah, see, here, she's still got on her wedding ring. So I know, and this is real early. This is LBJ State Park. These are all pecans, and they haven't leafed out. You know, pecans are always last to leaf out. And bluebottoms are just coming up. So I know that was late March, probably 79. Isn't that cool? Okay. We will have 2 more questions and then more wine. Anybody got, who's got a question? Yeah.
Did she have a favorite picture that you took of her?
Well, I'll tell you what, that picture that was on Texas Monthly, I didn't tell her what to wear, you know. And look, are you kidding? Look at those bluebonnets. I mean, holy cow, what a picture, you know.
Well, and she was very happy.
Yeah. That's that thing where she throw back her head. Because I didn't know it was good. This is one of my favorites. And then I'll show you the Smithsonian said we want, because of Bill Whitliff, we have the director of the Whitliff collection here, and they said, well, we heard this is Lady Bird photographer, but we don't know him. And Bill, do you know who he is? He goes, oh yeah, which is a good story. So I tried to be the photographer for the Red-Headed Stranger, and Bill Whitliff did the interviews over the phone. He said, well, where do you work? I go, I'm with the LBJ Locker. He says, you got a good job to. He says, you don't want to quit that job and come work for us, but we're going to be out. We don't know where you're going to sleep or if you'll sleep. And he talked me out of it. So years later, this comes up, and he said, absolutely, he's a good guy. He's a good photographer, and I think he shot for Texas Monthly a lot of, and so that helped me. And then they said, okay, send us 7 pictures, and then our committee meets once a year, and they'll decide. I said, well, you can take all 7. They went, hold your horses, buddy. This is a very tough thing to get on. Okay. And everybody had picked, not that. That's a good one. I mean, because she's just, rough. I love that. But it's just was wearing a pink dress.
You look like it's right there.
Yeah, right there.
See, y'all know these pictures. That's it. So I sent that and 6 others. The others had been, like I said, all these magazine covers, and the famous one that was all across the country. And this was always my favorite. It took like 3 months, and they called, and my photo assistant was like, are you crying? They picked my favorite. I just love it.
Now, where is that?
That is, well, now I'm going to give away a couple of my lives from my former life. This got on a lot of magazines, and it was said how she did highway stuff, and along a Texas highway. That's the runway. He said, is that a hill country highway? I said, oh yeah. Good. All right. One more? Come on. What's my favorite color?
Red?
Oh, I know. Let's go to the last time I photographed her, the end. It's in a folder called Final. So this is, of course, Lucy wouldn't like this, but she and John Barr, the downtown Austin lawyer, this is outside Smithville. And somebody helped me. She had an eye disease where she couldn't see in the middle. Yeah, thank you. But she, of course, John Barr was the head of LBJ company and everything. She trusted him, and by then she trusted him. It was great. She just wanted to go. Oh, here's another story here. We went on his Jeep, and she would look out the side of the Jeep. This is going to be in the book. And she said, well, I think I see purples. And then pink. She said, is that Ainathera? She knew all the Latin names. I think because the Kennedys were they just made them up seem like they were Beverly Hillbillies, and she just memorized all the Latin names. And I said, yes, Mr. It is. She said, will you pick me some? And I did. I said, how about a picture? We haven't done any pictures. It wasn't thought of as a picture day, really. That's just like my grandmother or something. I just love her so much. All right, then there's this other one. This is, so that's like 1993. And, oh, that's the same day. Okay, now I'm at the other one. Gosh, I didn't know I had both those in there. This is, because I used to come out of the LBJ Ranch at night from a lot of things. When I worked for the government, I would go out there with a screen and a 16mm projector and show films from the National Geographic. That's the Kissinger story. Okay. So they get this big meal, and Kissinger sits down and scotches like crazy. There's about 8, 9 people at the table. And she says, I'm going into the family room, and we're going to, Dennis here is going to show us a film. And she called me Dennis. And I had everything ready to go. Turn on, the lights go down. And not 5 minutes, Kissinger's just, and she got the too. I suppose we should tone it up a little tonight, you know. And we turned it up. And then he's just like making the windows rattle, he said. And James, who was the sort of the butler, he comes in and says, "Excuse me, secretary, excuse me. Would you like another scotch?" It was like the last thing he needed. And then we just did everything, and then finally we finished it. So I would come out on the ranch, and then I wanted to get a Coke or something before the drive back to Austin, so I'd go in the next town right just to the west called Stonewall. And there was this big rodeo and stuff, and I photographed that, and then I photographed it for 27 years after that. It's a great documentary, by the way, Dave. I'll show it to you sometime. And I was shooting that, and I wanted to go up here on the thing that is over the bulls, and all the rodeo stuff is underneath them. I said, "You can't go." I said, "I mean, I can't go." Miss Johnson's there, Secret Service woman. I go, "I know Miss Johnson. I shoot for her all the time." And he went, "Yeah, sure you do, cowboy." I finally, obviously, I got up there. And by then, that she'd had her last stroke, and she lost a lot of, she couldn't, she was, I don't know how to say it politely, but she was slobbering. So she always had a napkin, And, but she loved it. And this is Ian, Lucy's husband, Ian. This is his mother, who grew up in Canada. A very wonderful woman. And they were just really good friends. And she more or less took care of her. She died 6 weeks later.
Wow.
Well, Ian, what do you think? Did we do it? Were we there?